Margaret from the blog Don't Call It Bollywood, and I'm here to talk about this week's box office. This week's box office is really just one story on Pawan Kalra's new movie, Prince in Exile. And it's one story because of how this film was released. It was released to be the only story this week, and it's a sad story. This film, all along, I'm a little proud of myself because I was watching it going, this is going to turn out the same way Spyder did. And by golly, it turned out the same way Spyder did. Because there were certain things that were tracking in a similar fashion. Starting all the way back weeks ago when I started seeing trailers for it. The mere fact of me seeing trailers is odd. Because I was watching mainstream Hindi movies and there was this trailer attached to it for a movie that I would not have thought that I would have any interest in or that anyone else in my theater watching a mainstream Hindi movie would have interest in. And the trailer also wasn't very good. Even without having a huge background in Telugu film, I could see that. There was nothing that made me go, oh wow. There was nothing that felt exciting or new or different. Even the costumes didn't feel that interesting. And yet, this movie is being promoted so heavily that it's being attached to my little Hindi movies. The next thing that I started to see was this buzz just sort of vaguely in the air of you have to see this movie, you have to see this movie, you have to see this movie. I wasn't seeing it so much in my little corner of the internet. My blog that I run, which has very detailed reviews of films and where our discussions tend to be very detailed and esoteric, did not care about this movie. I was seeing it in other places where it seems to be more just sort of a Twitter army of fans and PR people saying, you have to see this movie, you have to see this movie. This is also a bad sign. I don't like movies that I have to see, especially before they've actually released. And then the third thing I saw was the release strategy. My little local Indian movie theater has 5 screens, and it only shows Indian movies. But it shows movies from all over India. Usually on the 5 screens, 1 or 2 or 3 will be running Hindi, and then they'll be splitting the other screens between Tamil, Malayalam, Telugu, whatever's newest this week. This week, 3.5 screens were running this movie, which meant they had almost no screens to give to the new Hindi releases. Mukaabaz, I think that's the name, didn't play there at all. 1921 barely had showtimes. Their Malayalam and Tamil films got shunted down to the 11 a.m. terrible times. They were giving everything to this one movie. It felt panicky, which is also how Spyder felt. There was this sense of this has to be a hit. We've been promised it will be a hit. We are throwing all of our eggs in one basket. And that's bad. What all of this was telling me is that there was a drive towards that opening night. Once again, which was the problem with Spyder. So this massive promotional campaign to make sure everybody's talking about it. The little message goes out to the Twitter army. The message has to be, you have to see this movie. You cannot wait. You must be there opening night. And the release strategy is to drive everyone in opening night because there is literally nothing else to watch. They have taken every screen. The other thing that I found interesting, now that the movie's actually come out, is that the figures for this film are not available on RentTrack. RentTrack is the one legitimate source for box office statistics, especially in America where it was based. What they do is they call every movie theater in America and ask how many tickets they sold for a particular film and how much money it made. And they do this because they're paid by the distributors of the film who want these very exact objective figures. And more importantly, they want these very exact objective figures to be available to other people. That's how you build up trust. That's how you're able to make your next movie have a wider release, to say, look how well this last one did. Here are my figures that you can trust. This distributor didn't care about that. They're collecting and publicizing their own figures, which means they only care about themselves and their film. Not the future of the industry and not what anyone else will think, but just how they in particular are doing. And that's what their release strategy looked like as well. There was this huge push to get a massive amount of money very, very quick and then get out. They don't care about the movie theater that now has 3 empty theaters because all the money was made opening night, because they got all their money opening night. What they also do a lot of, and this was true with Spyder and with Bahubali, is renting out screens in theaters that wouldn't usually show an Indian film. The way that would work is you would go to your mainstream theater and just pay, say, $500 to rent one of their screens. And then any ticket sales go directly to you. So if we're talking about a major film like this, tickets might be anywhere upwards of $25 for opening night. You spend $500 to rent that screen. You only have to sell 21 tickets to make a profit. You don't care that those 21 people who bought tickets hated the movie. You don't care that there's bad buzz and it's not making a profit any other night. You've already made your profit. You're out. You're good. You're done. And that seems to be the attitude of these distributors overall. I say these distributors because I think it was a slightly different company for Spyder Bahubali and this film. None of them paid for the rent track figures, and none of them were sort of mainstream distributors that I'd heard about before. They seemed more like Indian event organizers, the same people who might coordinate a concert tour or, I don't know, a huge Garba party that you have to pay an entrance fee for. And that's how they're looking at these movies, as a one-time event. You get people in, you get their money, and you're done, which is terrible for the health of the industry as a whole. Let's go back to this movie in particular and Spyder. Both of these movies, if you just watch them as films, it would be clear that they are not good movies. They are not movies that people will feel they got their money's worth from. I shouldn't say not good, because Spyder actually was a good film. It was just a film that would only appeal to a small portion of the audience. It's too scary for children. It's not romantic enough for couples on dates. It's just not a movie for everybody, even though I think people pretty consistently agreed it was actually a good film. It just wasn't a film that was going to appeal to everybody. And yet it was released and promoted as a everyone in the world has to see this movie kind of movie. So then everyone went to see it. A large proportion of them hated it and felt ripped off. With this movie, it sounds like it's just not a good movie across the board. It had a crowd-pleasing concept, but it wasn't well executed. So you have the same problem. All these people come in to see this movie because you have to see this movie, and then they hate it and they feel ripped off. And this is bad for the movie industry as a whole. There's the theaters who are now stuck with these tickets they can't sell. And there's also the people who want to make another movie who are now going to have a harder time selling it to distributors and theaters because they got stuck with this lame-o movie last time. And there's also the audience, which has now lost faith in films. Are they likely to take a chance on Soraya's new film, which is getting decent reviews, after they just lost $25 seeing this movie they hated? Probably not. It's just going to go back into the concept of all the movies are bad, without an awareness of only bad movies are being promoted. It's only bad movies that you're hearing about and that you're seeing everywhere because they have to be promoted like that because they're bad. They wouldn't last as well if they weren't promoted. It's the good films that you don't really hear about because they don't need a promotion campaign. They can stand on their own 2 feet. Anyway, that's how it looks to me. You can agree, you can disagree. Leave me a comment on my blog. There's a link right below. I'd love to talk with you there. Thanks. Bye.